Man, the Browns-Cowboys game is one that just felt like it should have been in prime time. The Browns acted like it was. The Cowboys acted like it didn't. Browns win 49-38. At one point, though, it was statement game. It was 85 Bears going into Dallas and winning 44-0 kind of statement game, if anyone remembers that. I remember what a stunner that was. That was front page cover of Sports Illustrated stunner. And when I saw 41-14, I thought, what in the hell is wrong with the Cowboys and what in the hell is right with the Browns? Now, the Browns held off the assault from the Cowboys. They still got the big win. They hang 49 on Dallas. What is the headline of this? That the Cowboys stink at 1-3, or that the Browns, after losing week 1, have won 3 in a row?
I think more that the Browns have won 3 in a row. I mean, especially with the Browns we're talking about. This has been the gutter team of football for, the better part of 2 decades. So the fact that they're 3-1, even though Dallas being 1-3 with that much talent on their roster and all that stuff, or at least on the offensive side of the ball, is shocking. I still think the bigger story is Cleveland too, and especially the way they did it, right, Mike? I mean, to me, that was kind of a different way of fun to watch a football game. It was like star power, explosive plays with like grittiness. It wasn't like Dallas where it's this high flying, we're going to throw it all over the place. It was, Nick Chubb run, reverse pass Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. reverses and things like that, to where not the way we always see a receivers are like that, get the ball in their hands that way, but nonetheless, they got it in their hands. And I mean, come on, 300 yards, that's old school Oklahoma, Nebraska wishbone stuff when you're talking about the run game on a defense like that.
And it really is amazing that they were able to run the ball as well as they could, even after Nick Chubb exited the game. He had 43 yards. The Browns finished with 307 rushing yards. The Browns are awaiting news today on Nick Chubb's MRI. They were cautiously optimistic that the knee isn't seriously injured, but the MRI, as always, tells the story. Here's Baker Mayfield. His stats aren't through the roof, but the team is winning, and there's a vibe in Cleveland that definitely wasn't there during the ill-fated Freddie Kitchens era.
We can score points when we need to. I think, like we keep saying, establishing that run game, creating one-on-ones on the outside in the play-action game. And then when we need to throw it, we just got to be efficient on some of those third downs. I thought we could have been a little bit better. I could have been a little bit better, just distributing the ball, finding completions. But we're learning that we're efficient when we need to be, and we just have to, be more consistent. I think that's the biggest takeaway from today. Yeah, we scored a lot of points, but we left a lot out there, and I truly believe that.
Boy, if they left a lot out there and they scored 49, that's a scary thought of what may happen in the future. But it was clicking. It was clicking without Nick Chubb. It was clicking with Kareem Hunt, who had a groin injury, who didn't contribute as much as expected. And one of the reasons it clicked, and we'll talk about this more later in the program when we empty the notebook, because I had a conversation with Kevin Stefanski, the coach of the team, after the game. It was clicking because of Odell Beckham Jr. They have found a sweet spot. They found a way to make it work. And Beckham ended up being a supplement in the running game. And part of that was because Chubb was injured, Chris.
Yeah, well, perfect. And I give Kevin Stefanski, a guy who I questioned his offense a little with this hire. I mean, he's found the right formula and way to use these guys. And, yeah, okay, the passing game's not clicking all the time, as we've seen. Nobody cares. Make plays. You got explosive playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, and that's where Stefanski's upped his game big time to me. I mean, he's taken a little bit of a page out of the McVay-Shanahan playbook to a degree. Yeah, okay, we're going to focus our offense through the run game, and then I got 2 guys on the edge of my offense who, when I give them the ball, they can keep you honest and keep you off my run game from overplaying it with reverses to Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. But, quite honestly, they can make game-changing, difference-making plays. That's the big thing. And that's really what came through for the Browns yesterday, is their big players, the ballers. Jarvis Landry, great touchdown pass. Baker plays solid. Odell was a superstar. Myles Garrett gets a strip sack fumble. Great roster, what do I want to say, depth or planning there. Oh, yeah, we're going to run the football. We're going to be a good running football team. All right, well, if you're going to do that, you better have more than one running back in case one guy goes down. Oh, whoa, we got this kid Johnson and Kareem Hunt, and wow, we didn't miss a beat really when they went out. So there's a lot of things I think to respect about the Browns right now. The roster, the talent, and then what Stefanski's doing, I think, is the perfect way for this football team to succeed, and that's why they're kind of fun and explosive to watch right now.
Yeah, D'Ernest Johnson had nearly 100 rushing yards, and he's the guy that most people would say, who the hell's that?
That's what I said.
Hunt and Chubb.
Right.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was Hunt and Chubb all year long. Chubb goes out, and again, the Browns don't miss a beat. It's amazing to have over 300 rushing yards when the top guy, one of the best running backs in the NFL, leaves early with only 43. And Odell, this is one of those, Chris.
Yeah.
More than anything else, I want to be right. I want to be right with the things I report. I want to be right with the things that I predict. And I had this kind of weird feeling that ricocheted through my torso and disappeared last week when we were thinking about these games. And I'm thinking, it's Dallas. OBJ going back to Texas, going back against the team that he had that big catch against. It's Myles Garrett going back home. It's Baker Mayfield going back to Texas. They only play there, the Browns do, once every 8 years. There's an element to this for them that makes it more special than it does for the team that plays 8 games there every year. The Browns are going to bring it. And then the thought disappeared, and I didn't act on it. But Odell Beckham Jr. was incredible. And if he plays like that every week, and there's no guarantee that he will, the challenge is on the weeks where he's not getting the opportunities, if they lose, will that be the talking point? They need to find a balance where he's involved, and if they're winning, it doesn't matter. But in a game where they lose and he's not involved, that's where these issues could come back to the forefront. But based on how awkward week 1 was, the fact that everything with him is stabilized, that's a testament to what Kevin Stefanski has done too.
I think so. You're right. I mean, Mike, I think we were both in the same camp where we're going like, man, is this going to work? Is Odell in Cleveland going to work? Or was that just a bad trade? And Cleveland's going to be putting him on the trade block here at some point before the season's over. I think we were both kind of like thinking, I think this is where this is going in Cleveland. But again, Stefanski's found a way to include him in the offense. And yeah, he's not going to lead football in receiving or receptions this year and challenge, guys like Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins. Not going to happen. But I think they could be a really fun, explosive team, and Odell could be really happy if you carve out that Deebo Samuel type role we saw for the 49ers last year. Gets a handful of carries every game. Gets a handful of screen passes thrown his way every game. And then, of course, has the traditional route running downfield off of play action and all those type of things too. But I think what Stefanski's doing by building this team through the run game, though, he's got a chance to do that to where they're going to win football games. Yeah, it might not be all pass yards, but all the stars, he's found ways to get them to touch the football and feel happy and included and look what I'm doing for the football team. And I think at the end of the day, that's what any good football player wants to do. And I just want a chance to make a difference, get the ball in my hand. I don't think Odell will care if it's through the air or on the ground.
There's a balance there as well. And the guy who always comes to mind for me is Randy Moss. When the Vikings tried under Mike Tice to implement the Randy ratio, which was a mistake, if we can get him the ball 40% of the time, we'll win games. Because when they look back at the games they won, hey, he got the ball 40% of the time. It doesn't work that way. You can't force it. And I felt like they were trying to force it to Odell Beckham Jr. The other side of it is finding ways to get the ball in his hands, because good coaches can do that. It's one thing to say we sent him on a go route and he was triple covered and he wasn't open and what do we do? It's another thing to say we're bringing him in motion, we're giving him a jet sweep, we're giving him a handoff, we're finding ways that we get him the ball where they can't stop us from getting him the ball. And that's something Stefanski told me after the game yesterday. He's challenging himself to get the ball into Odell Beckham Jr.'s hands early, and that was the key with Randy Moss. Get him involved early. If you didn't get Randy Moss involved early in a game, he checked out. And I think Odell Beckham Jr. to a certain extent will do the same thing. So just get him the ball early.
Yeah.
Find ways to get him the ball early. If he can run like he ran at the end of the game yesterday when it should have been, as you said last night, a 20-yard loss, and he ends up scoring a freaking touchdown.
Right.
I'd hand him the ball as much as I hand it to anybody else on the team.
No doubt. And again, I think the big thing is, too, you keep people off your bread and butter part of your offense, right? The meat and potatoes. Oh, you want to overplay our pulling guard, run to the right with Nick Chubb that's gashing you and always have the backside linebacker and the safety down there cheating. Well, that's where the guys like Odell Beckham Jr., to what you're saying, Mike, you get them the ball in their hands early on in the game, gets them feeling good, gets some juices going. Maybe they make a play to jumpstart your offense. But at the very least, they work as a decoy to be, whoa, okay, there's that guy. They got a plan to give him the ball, and the defense is always going to be looking for him for the rest of the day if you give them those touches early on, let alone – it'll stop them from overplaying some of your real plays because they might see that pulling guard Nick Chubb run and go, wait, is this going to be the reverse off of it? I see Odell coming in motion, and it really can help your offense that way. It doesn't have to be complicated, and Stefanski seems like he's figuring it out. Like I said, I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far.
Meanwhile, the Cowboys are 1-3,
Whoa.
and there's an important dynamic that unfolds during every Dallas Cowboys game. Jason Garrett's name trends on Twitter because Cowboys fans are having seller's remorse. Maybe we should have kept Mr. Clapper in Dallas. Instead, it's Mike McCarthy, and they should be 0-4, but for pulling the rabbit out of the hat or elsewhere a couple of weeks ago against the Falcons, they would be 0-4. Here's Mike McCarthy, who is already getting upset about his new team.
It ultimately falls at my feet. It's my responsibility. The application of details did not exist today in certain spots of the game. There was a lot of good football that will totally go unrecognized. And that's what happens when you lose. But what I don't like is I don't like the pattern of the 4 games that we've played. The points are outrageous. The time of possession is totally lopsided. And we're minus 7 in a turnover ratio, and that's not a winning formula.
No, it's not a winning formula at all. That's why they've only won 1 game and, frankly, shouldn't have won that game. The good news is Dak Prescott is performing like a quarterback never has.
Yeah.
Set a record for yardage in consecutive games. But you know what? When that's all your offense has, when you can't run the ball or when you're consistently behind
that's right.
by double digits. I mean, that's the problem. Every game for the Cowboys is, let's see how deep we can dig the hole, and then whether or not we can frantically climb our way out of it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to discuss here with the Dallas Cowboys. There really is. And that's the first thing. You're right. Not get yourself in a hole to where you got to climb out of it. Okay, well, who do they got to blame for that last night? Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, a game planner who doesn't protect a right tackle going against Myles Garrett, who's one of the best pass rushers in the game. Those 2 possessions were the difference of the game. They were in a shootout.
But the X's and the O's said it would work.
You're right. They drew it up, and they said, man, this guy that's never been drafted a right tackle, we think he could draft. Look at that line. Oh, he blocked the number 1 pick in the draft. Look at that. Except when it's for real, and it wasn't for real. I mean, it was for real. But that was the difference right there, Mike. Those 2 plays, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, 2 plays in a row, fumble, lead to short touchdown drives for the Cleveland Browns, gave them that 28-14 lead. So they can blame themselves for that, for sure. And then, from what Mike McCarthy's saying and everything there, time of possession, those days are over for the Dallas Cowboys. They can't run and dominate the line of scrimmage like the old days. They're a passing team. It's done. Ezekiel Elliott's really good, but they're not going to be able to do that anymore. And then defense. Do they play it? Defensively, it's embarrassing right now. It really is. There's nothing other than Aldon Smith to look at and be impressed by. And then also, I think the thing that jumps out to me, Mike, with their defense is, there's DeMarcus Lawrence if you're watching on TV. Where's he been? We never say his name anymore. They're paying him $100 million. That's concerning. But they have a team that's built to play a 4-3 defense, that Seattle scheme, and they hired a guy like Mike Nolan where that's not really his defense. And you're seeing right now a team when the players don't fit the scheme, let alone the players aren't that talented to begin with, or maybe not as talented as we all thought. And it's just the perfect mesh of just get gashed on a weekly basis right now. It's embarrassing what they're doing.
Said Lawrence after the game, according to The Athletic, we've got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We've got to play together as one. I don't feel like we're holding ourselves accountable, including myself. So I call the bleep soft, and we will get better from it. Those are just words, though. How do you actually put it into action? I'm going to hold myself more accountable. Well, if you're overmatched, it doesn't matter. You're just holding yourself more accountable for something you ultimately can't control.
No, you're right. Yeah, okay. I mean, we know, but what are you going to do? I don't know. Where I have seen no silver lining to go, well, they do have this, or this group of guys is hurt and going to be back. I mean, I know they're missing some middle linebackers, but I don't look at that and just go, oh, well, the defense will be fixed and good. It doesn't matter. Their defensive line can't rush the passer. They get moved off the ball in the run game. And then secondary-wise, I mean, we're seeing big plays every week. I mean, they're basically playing right now, we're going to get the ball last. Dak Prescott, we're just hoping he's going to score. That's how they're playing. They're going to get – it doesn't look like it's going to change. And right now, 3 games in a row, the offense has made mistakes that has hurt them in these shootouts, and they can't afford to do that because there's no wiggle room on their team right now.
The good news for the Dallas Cowboys, if there is any, other than Dak Prescott's performance, because he really has been spectacular, although part of it's on him. When you get into a potential shootout, remember the talk last week about is it going to be a shootout? Well, at 14-14, it looked like a shootout was starting, and then the next thing you know, it's 41-14. So at some point along the way, Dak Prescott's not living up to his end of the bargain to answer what the Browns are doing, Chris.
I think that's, I mean, I don't want to say it's fair because they're asking so much of him right now. That's where it's just there's too much on him every play, every drive. It's just you got to make the perfect throw. We're never going to stop the other team. You got to go down and score. And when you have to play like that, like your hair's on fire all the time, it's going to lead to right tackles being on an island against Myles Garrett and mistakes and things like that. But yes, I mean, as awesome as he's playing right now, last week it was the interception before the half ended. It was the strip sack fumble in Seattle to start the second half. And then, of course, yesterday, the Atlanta game was a bunch of turnovers by Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. They were fortunate to come back, yes, but, again, some of their star powers and those guys on the offensive side of the ball are letting them down by making those mistakes in games that, they're going to have to kind of play perfect and win a shootout.
So, Chris, the record for passing yardage in a single season, 5,477, set by Peyton Manning in 2013, just 2 years after Drew Brees had 5,476.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning leapfrogged him by 36 inches.
Yes.
Dak Prescott, if you saw the number that was up on the screen, 1,690 passing yards through 4 games. I had to run this through my calculator 3 times because I didn't believe the final number. He's on pace, not for 5,478. He's on pace for 6,760 passing yards.
It's insane.
Now, wouldn't it be something if he sets that record for a team that goes 5-11 and maybe wins the division?
Who knows? Who knows in the NFC East? 6-10 first round home game in the playoffs.
I still got a problem with that. And this is I may forget about it by the time we do Anger of Grievances on Wednesday. But the Cowboys are 1-2. Washington's 1-2. The Giants are 1-3. 1-3. 0-4 for the Giants. And there are the Eagles at 1-2-1 by virtue of whatever the hell it is they did last night to your guy Kyle Shanahan. They're in first place.
It's unbelievable. The Philadelphia Eagles in first place after a ugly tie, win that game last night that I know we'll discuss here in a little while. But the NFC least, it's not the NFC East this year. It's the NFC least. It's very disappointing. And, you're right. Dallas sitting here at 1-3. It doesn't matter. And this year, it doesn't. But this is the way they're going to have to do it. And he might throw for 6,000 yards this year. I'm dead serious. I think he's going to get close. He's going to break the record. With those weapons and as bad as their defense is, it's going to lay out to where, they're going to come out pressing the issue in the past game, but I just can't imagine there's any game where they're going to be able to be like, oh, let's sit back. We got this game won. I just don't see how that happens with their defense. They're going to be in a lot of these shootouts, and I would expect them to challenge it. I really would.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.